The Liquid Light State Universe by Alexei Novitzky. Introduction. The liquid light state universe describes how the universe is like a smooth pond of water. Overlapping waves add and subtract to create nodes of manifesting matter. As continued from Your Influence in Space, the concept of a unique light state for every point in the universe is first reviewed. We see that space is dense with electromagnetic waves of all frequencies coming in from all directions. Just like water waves in an ocean, these waves add and subtract. Scientifically, the physical experience an observer undergoes is directly related to its relative frame of three-dimensional motion. Objects can become time-dilated, contracted, and etc. Science does a great job discussing the physical material environment, but that is the limitation of science. Effects of relativity also occur in the mind and spirit. Mind and spirit also have direct effects on matter. Where does consciousness exist and what creates it? Why is tomorrow not as easily predicted as 1 + 1 = 2? The answer would be in free will or choice. You could say we all have a golden spot. It is the you in full confidence and awareness. It is the full you that exists without question or concern. It is important to remember that almost 99% of everything you do is customary. You have been born into society and trained to think and act in certain ways. Man-made infrastructures, ideologies, and customs are simply man-made and not natural to the universe. All of those actions are done by choice. This leads to a general programming of mental electromagnetic projections, meaning people generally walk with the same wants, don't wants, assumptions, and expectations, emulating from their bodies in the form of electromagnetic consciousness waves. All of these unnatural emanations physically alter your node of manifestation and the naturally occurring universe. Scientific applications of the liquid light state universe will yield technologies such as teleportation, levitation, canceling matter, manifesting matter from the emptiness of space, and consciously controlled devices. Applying liquid light state principles into your daily routine will reduce anxious pacing, reaffirm personal confidence, and create a healthier manifested body. Your Influence in Space recap. I strongly urge you read Your Influence in Space before reading the Liquid Light State Universe. Many of the concepts are new to the scientific community and the terminology is first defined there. Space preparation. Empty space prepares itself before matter manifests. This can most easily be seen by looking at a single spot in the universe from all relativistic frames of motion from 0 to infinite velocity. What you will see is that for the stationary observer, a yellow light will manifest as yellow. For the light speed traveler, it may be Doppler shifted to red. However, for the traveler of infinite velocity, our yellow light manifests at a wavelength of infinity. Relate that to distance after 1 second, and you see that yellow light has traveled 1c, the red light may be 2c. However, at extreme, the infinitely long wave observed by the traveler of infinite velocity is already past the edge of the physical universe. Now relate the distances traveled or wavelength to energy density, and you see the trend matches extremely well with Heisenberg's uncertainty principle about velocity and location. Velocity, for all in terms of purpose, for this example, relates directly to energy density. Here we have 3 wave examples. The total energy for the wave is the same for all observers. This implies that your light encompasses the entire universe, but has most effect at the current relativistic frame and location. You have effect at the edge of space, but your energy is strongest where you stand in place. What you notice is that empty space prepares itself with infinitely long wavelengths. Then as the current now manifests, the wave condenses into the current relativistic frame, giving it maximum energy. Light state. A single electromagnetic wave might or might not be enough to create matter. However, if you were to consider the light state of any point in space and time, you'd see that space is extremely dense with electromagnetic waves coming in from all directions. Light state would be the current vector account of all EM waves within a certain volume. The smallest light state that could exist would be that of the Planck of Voxel. The biggest would be that of the universe. The human experience. Most likely anybody reading this is a human. That being written in red, it is extremely important to understand that our day-to-day three-dimensional reality that you see is completely constructed in our brains. Our bodies have 5 major senses that we use to construct the physical reality. Not all animals or beings have the same senses. Some beings use sonar to see. Some don't even have eyes. To go in the other direction, some beings may have senses that our brains cannot even comprehend. You could say we measure intelligence by one's ability to express itself and solve problems. And that is why we would say that an earthworm is not as smart or advanced. You can literally just walk over and pick them up. Well, what does the earthworm think of piles of dirt or amoeba? The worm probably thinks that they're not very smart. Do your best to imagine being an earthworm and then being given the body or senses of a human. You would see a much grander picture than you could ever have possibly imagined. You will learn about stars and planets. You will learn how to construct telescopes, build and use computers. You would be an ascended worm master. So how smart or advanced are we as humans? Just imagine a being with the same gap in intelligence we have with worms, but to us. Imagine they can open portals and travel light speed with no technology. We live a very human experience, and because of that, we assume that all life must be made of matter. Matter is less than 1% of the entire construct of the universe. There is a good chance that there are beings that exist without matter. Life on Earth has filled every nook and cranny. Extremophiles inhabit the harshest regions and thrive. The further from earthly bodies we go, the less likely we will recognize life when we see it. At the same time, the human and many other earthly forms may be common across all planets. Everywhere in the universe, hydrogen is hydrogen, helium is helium, and so on. Why wouldn't the human form be common in other habitats that are similar to Earth? There is more chance that in liquid environments you'd have fish-like beings, in the atmosphere you'd have birds and insects, in black holes you might have natural time travelers. The easy user interface. When looking at reality with our bodies, we are given a solid physical environment in which solids remain solid and fluids flow naturally with time. The act of picking up something with your hand is a solid-on-solid interaction. That is true to you and to the earthworm. However, consider the human body to be the easy user interface that allows our mind and spirit to easily interact with the universe. It is easiest to see when comparing the human body and physical experience within the universe to a computer mouse and an operating system like Windows. On a computer, to open an application, all you need to do is grab the mouse and double-click. Then to type words, you just push buttons on a keyboard. It is very simple to make amazing things happen on a computer, even if you have absolutely no clue how the computer works. All the programs that you just use your mouse for require hundreds, if not thousands of lines of code to operate and function properly. Take it a step further. Even the letters and symbols that construct the codes are made of simple ons and off switches, the ones and zeros of the matrix. Operating systems make using the computer more user-friendly. That is your body, the easy user interface to the universe. In order to move an object, you just reach out and move it. The electromagnetic dance. What is really going on when you move? Is there not an electromagnetic light show going off in your brain? Is your body not massaging the universe with electromagnetism? The thought alone, I want to move my arm, even subconsciously, may be the first physical hint. It is a spark, a pulse of electromagnetism emanating from your spiritual center that then overlaps with the current light state of the universe. The resultant summation is a new physical structure in the solid crystal of the universe. Your arm has moved. The human body truly is the easy user interface to the universe. After all, the body is the mind's spaceship. The construct you have of reality in your head is a simplified, user-friendly version. Senses filter, minds construct, and bodies pulsate, all to make the universe seem as if there are solid boundaries to different objects. It is true in mind. However, in practice, we are in a state of constant manifestation. Manifesting through space. Time is relative to the mind experiencing it, as well as the frames of motion in which it lives. The perception of time a being requires is related to surviving and being able to interact with the surrounding processes. You need time to act and react, and so your perception of time is tuned to your environment and life cycle. It is the result of evolving on Earth, around the sun, and an expanding universe. This is why objects seem solid. Our perception of time is way too slow to see all the underlying processes of the universe. The hand is quicker than the eye. Well, the Planck second is much quicker than that, occurring at 10 to the minus 44 times a second. The Planck time is the amount of time it takes for a particle or wave traveling at the speed of light to travel 1 Planck length, which equals 1 times 10 to the minus 35 meters. It is said that there are more units of Planck time in 1 second than there are seconds in the known universe. This shows the amount of interaction required to simply move your arm is almost unfathomable, and in a certain time scale for that of the Planck consciousness takes an eternity. Wave nature. Energies from all wave types overlap to create the experience manifested. Depending on how they add, 2 perfectly timed water waves traveling in opposite directions can make the appearance of no wave, or timed half wavelength from that will be a giant spike. It is possible to have infinite energy in a system all adding to 0. Consider 2 sound speakers facing the same direction. They both play a constant and uniform tone but are placed physically a half wavelength away. The energy from the speakers in this case would be canceling each other, producing absolutely no sound. You can turn the volume up on both of them, but you still wouldn't hear a sound. It is only when you turn one speaker completely off that you can now hear the tone or manifest the energy. The current light state. Detecting the current light state can be done in many ways. Considering we are working in detecting and canceling wavelengths from the smallest in existence all the way to infinitely long, we would need to use a variety of systems. Simple charged coupling devices are able to gather information on what type of wave or photon is incoming. These work great for visible light. Typical visible light laser and LED systems can be used to cancel out incoming visible light. Large radio antennae can be used to detect the incoming state of radio waves. These antennae would need to be on the size of the VLA, the Very Large Array. Massive radio antennae would be required to cancel out the incoming radio source as well. For the super long radio form, we could construct something very similar to the VLA using all the planets in the solar system. We would need to establish a virtual solar system sized antenna by combining all the signals of the individual antenna that have been placed on the individual planets or in orbit around the sun. The resulting area between the massive antenna and all the planets would become the effective surface area of your dish. You essentially would have a radio telescope with a diameter equal to that of our solar system. These same individual dishes can be choreographed in many different ways in order to measure the incoming light state. Once the incoming light state is known, it is then possible to create nullifying waves. It is important to remember that the signal we are looking to cancel is not necessarily in the now or of a singular wave format. Space preparation shows us that as matter manifests into three-dimensional space, that it first prepares itself by coming in from infinitely long radio form, and somewhat instantaneously that waveform transitions into a higher and higher frequency until it is in the solid form. This shows that in order to cancel the manifestation, you would need to cancel the space preparation as well. It is all happening at once. Sure, you could just cancel the current manifesting frame, but the essence of the object being canceled would remain. It would appear half manifest, like an out-of-focus picture on a camera. This relates to how astronomers use sky flats in order to cancel out the noise or the object they are looking for. You don't completely cancel out the image, but you're taking a general sky flat, you can dramatically reduce the background noise. In this case, the one without using shifting frequency waves, the object would probably be canceled enough to say that it has been canceled, but it would still have the effect and produce localized photons. A quick side. While studying astronomy in Boulder, Colorado, I once had a class on a very cloudy night. There was a full moon that night, and the clouds were so thick you couldn't see anything. The professor was about to cancel the class, and we were all about to go home. That's when I suggested, couldn't we just take a random picture of the clouds, not aiming at the moon? Then take a second photo aiming directly at the moon? Then by isolating the cloud CCD data, subtract the clouds from the moon? The professor looked at me and said, that might work. We ended up slewing to an empty patch of stars, so only the cloud data was being received by the CCD. We then slewed over to the moon and took a second photo. We subtracted the CCD data of the clouds from the moon photo. And to everyone's surprise, we had an incredible photo of the moon. You could see every detail and crater just subtracting similar CCD data was enough to clear up the sky for a great night of observation. This is an important point in the general cancellation of matter. Back to the main point. By using regular or constant waves, You may be able to somewhat cancel the object, but it would still appear fuzzy and somewhat manifest. The ideal way to fully cancel an object from manifesting into the universe is to use the changing waveform. This would require all of the varying telescopes, lasers, and dishes to work in harmony to create the effect of these rapidly scaling forms. Going off the Boulder, Colorado example, it may be the case that incoming signals may be generalized for any particular area. Ideally, the light state you would want to be detecting would be that of the now. Then you would cancel manifestation with waves directly relating to the moment. However, when taking a crystal clear image of the moon through the clouds, we didn't subtract the background light of the clouds directly in front of the moon. We used sky that was next to it. It may have even been possible to use a picture that had been taken years prior. The important information, and I stress this point, is that every object may have a manifest signature which could be recorded. These signatures could then be used whenever, by whomever, to create effects of canceling and manifestation. It would almost be like the engineering books that exist today. Stress, strain, and material relationships have been developed for many years. The same would be the case for manifestation tables of the common particles. You could then document the frequencies, orientations of EM, scalar ratios, and any other properties that may be commonplace. The use of a general particle manifestation table would also need to be accompanied with the local manifestation flats. A manifestation flat could be considered the equivalent of a sky flat. It is the localized incoming EM, but in this case, it would be that of a volumetric light state. A fun side, not only is it possible to gather the manifestation properties of particles, but it is also possible to record entire structures like homes. Theoretically, and eventually a practicality, you could turn on and off your entire house with the flip of a switch. By turn off, I mean completely cancel from existence, and by turn on, I mean manifest from the emptiness of space. A fresh start. Using the system of detectors and emitters discussed earlier, you can make any matter you choose from the emptiness of space. A less advanced way, yet proper stepping stone for this achievement, would be to create a zone of absolute zero. I'm not familiar with any term for a completely empty environment except for a vacuum, but I'm referring to a three-dimensional volume that has absolutely nothing inside it. It would not even let solar system EM waves pass through or neutrinos. This raw, pure, empty space would be the perfect building block for all matter. Imagine if you could create this environment in a table-sized box or storage closet. You could put whatever you wanted inside it. The box would then determine the light state and cancel whatever you put inside. It would be a box that would always remain empty. Similar to the two-speaker example earlier with both speakers playing at the highest volume setting, you would not hear a sound, see an image, or magnetically interfere with whatever is inside this box. You could say this box is completely empty, or in order to retrieve items from the box, you just flip a switch that turns off the canceling wave, energy. Your item now exists within the box and can physically be removed and used. These same tables could then be used for transmutation as well. You would be able to see the differences in the light states of each element. From that, you either add or subtract the necessary EM waves to create the desired results. Teleportation and levitation. It is possible to use the knowledge and theoretical technologies to instantaneously teleport objects. Levitation could be considered localized teleportation, so we will brush on that as well. Considering that matter is essentially the current light state of the universe, it may be possible to bend or alter the location at which the material focuses. This same concept can potentially be used for bi- or multi-locating depending on how much of the object is teleported, and if you choose to only teleport to one spot per moment. It is similar to how you can use a piece of glass to reflect an image on a wall. Yes, the light you are projecting passes directly through the glass. An image can clearly be seen. However, at the same time, part of the image is being reflected and appearing on the wall. This light or image is at two places at once. It is bilocating. You could then use 3 pieces or any number of pieces of glass to create a multi-locating effect. Apply the concepts of refracting and reflecting light to the manifestation of matter based on incoming scalar EM and light state, and you see that you can alter the location of natural nodes rather instantaneously. Earlier in the book, we discussed the cancellation or manifestation of matter. Here we are talking about the shifting of nodes. Shifting nodes occurs all the time, every day. It is the act of matter moving through space. The manifestation rate could be considered timeless, as it is related to scales of the Planck, although the flowing nature of the liquid light universe does not have intervals of non-existence, for it is an ever-existing flow of harmony. Planck scales are still a good way to equate. In a sort of fashion, to give a measurement of time it would take to teleport, levitate, bilocate, or etc. just doesn't really make any sense. It is instantaneous. It is now. To not be too sidetracked, man created measurements of time and the concept of a second. It is one of the daily happenings that subconsciously emulate from your electromagnetic center. We will talk about how the underlying conscious assumptions affect the natural light state of the universe on our mind, body, and spirit graph later. For now, let's stay focused, no pun intended, on focusing or reflecting the natural nodes of manifestation. How can you alter the location of nodes? The easiest way may be through gravitational lensing. Gravitational lensing can be seen occurring naturally in the universe. Physically, it is the act of large bodies having so much gravity that they are able to bend light as it passes by. It is most easily seen when looking for black holes. The bending of a star's light as it passes a large gravitational force will alter the apparent location of the star. We would want to bend the sphere of light that surrounds the body being teleported. Depending on the direction of travel relative to the starting point is how you would want to bend the light. Light coming from behind you would need to be accelerated. Light coming from in front of you would need to be slowed. Light coming from the sides would just need to be moved while staying in the same vibrational state. The electromagnetic alteration required would resemble the picture above. It may also be possible to achieve this alteration of the liquid light state universe by using permanent magnets, electromagnets, and potentially geometric shapes of dense material. Harmony of zero. There are many options or ways to create an offset yet harmonious relationship with the universe. Here's a very simple diagram to show the incoming light state for the volume of a space. This volume may or may not have a conscious entity within it. However, for this example, let's say it's a uniform light state. It is possible to create harmonious motions within the space. Technologically, these internal, never-ending motions may be used to generate great power in mind, body, and spirit, and potentially even used as a never-ending supply of electricity. Let's be square for a minute. For this next section, we have turned the incoming shape of the universe into a square. We are simply altering the way we are demonstrating the wave nature of the universe. Now let's add a generic light state value to the square. For this case, the value is x. The wave is in perfect harmony. It will continue to act as x inside and outside of the interior of the square. In other words, the system is equal to zero. It is in its golden spot of never-ending existence. What if we were to somehow trick the light state to think that inside the square is x when it really is not? The answer comes in the form of magic squares. Magic squares come in all size grids, 3x3, 4x4, 5x5, and so on. Numbers are laid out onto a grid, and no matter which way the numbers are added together, they will equal the same value on the outside. For example, in the above a magic square, all verticals, horizontals, diagonals, and corner sets are equal to the value of 34. This arrangement has profound implications for creating structures that are harmonious with the light state. These structures may be designed such that uniformity only exists when in motion or harnessing energy. For example, if the 16 were a 17, the system would not be in harmony. However, if you would have a device drawing an energy of 1 from the 17 with a wire, you would have a virtual 16. This structure would be able to theoretically remain in motion while generating an energetic output of 1. Magic sphere. Here we see how the inside and outside of the magic ring or sphere are in perfect harmony. This is a state of being where the body is perfectly sustainable with its environment. The smaller circles on the inside are nodes that have been created by the individual. Here you see the 4 interior nodes are in perfect vibrational harmony with the universe. Imagine now that the large circles above depict one of the smaller 4 circles. You can see how these individual nodes, which represent thoughts or physical creations, may continue in this fashion inward, creating an infinite number of potential creations, while maintaining perfect harmony with the universe. An entity in this state of being is in a state of infinite and instantaneous manifestation of all thought forms projected. meaning their thoughts and visions will become their reality. Personal implications. There are many implications that arise from looking at the universe in such a fashion. You see that your body exists in all of space and time. It becomes apparent that your thoughts and vibrational harmony alone affect the solid manifesting state of the universe. The golden spot. Considering your mind, body, and spirit are part of the universe, it is important to understand that there is a golden spot where you will fully manifest. This is a place in the universe where you are happiest, healthiest, most confident, and therefore most creative. Earlier we mentioned how the overlapping waves of the universe add and subtract to form nodes of manifestation. We also discussed how the body is the easy user interface to the universe. Other than the original primordial thought, Big Bang, or naturally occurring universe, you could say there are also the minds of the beings that inhabit it. A smooth pond with falling pebbles. Consider the universe with no mind. It is a perfect smooth pond of water. Then a thought arises as if someone were to have tossed a stone. Then a ripple emulates outward, causing distortions on the surface of the pond. Then another thought, another stone. The pond becomes filled with rings of waves, all heading towards each other. Then they overlap. Nodes are created. Each additional stone that gets tossed in creates more rings and more nodes. As the stones change shape, so do the nodes. Eventually the stones stop being tossed, the pond becomes still, and returns to its natural state. The same is true for the liquid light state universe. All subconscious and conscious thoughts are constantly in vibration, emulating out from your electromagnetic center. The wants, don't wants, assumptions, and expectations you hold true in your gut become your vibrational output you are sending into this pond. They are the shape of the stone you are tossing into the pond. All these internally and externally flowing ripples create a distortion within your manifestation, which translates into a pacing of your mind, body, or spirit. They can create a partially manifested body, similar to the bilocating examples mentioned earlier. Mind, body, and spirit diagram. Here's a Cartesian mind, body, and spirit coordinate system to help explain the pacing nature thoughts, experiences, and energetic fields have about golden spot for any matter or energy within the light state of the universe. It is first important to define the terms mind, body, and spirit. Although no real definition exists, for the purpose of these diagrams, this is what we will be referring to. Mind would be the field of consciousness. It is your thoughts and those that affect you, both consciously and subconsciously. Body would be anything in your physical reality. This would be from your personal body to the trees on the other side of the planet. Anything physical is considered part of your body. Spirit would be your overall vibrational state. This can be in or against harmony with the light state. All three, mind, body, and spirit, may be controlled by the individual. You can take posture in body, mind, and spirit. You can develop and strengthen each one independently, although it is important that they rise together. The first example shows a body with no outside influences. The being is at its golden point in mind, body, and spirit. It is likely the state of health does not degrade. It could continue onward for eternity. At the same time, however, it may not experience anything, similar to existing within a magic sphere. An outside thought. Now here comes an outside thought. It could be anything from your friend suggesting a different color paint for a home project to the media telling you what you need to think or to be spending your money on. What does the outside incoming electromagnetic consciousness wave do to your mind? Well, it occupies it, it harmonizes with it, it influences the sitting state by overlapping with the existing. It has influences and creates change. These changes create a shift, first in mind. It has become your thought. This translates to a shifted body, which in turn demands a shifted spirit, while your new body harmonizes with the already existing light state of the universe. Shifted bodies. This graph is a simple visual representation of how the outside thought has created shifts in body and in spirit. It creates a shift in spirit because the new thought harmonizes with your existing electromagnetic field. Therefore, in order to harmonize with the universe, the body must move or it will undergo stress and strain. In engineering terms, stress is the amount of force being applied and strain is the amount of bending occurring. When your body is fixed in the universe and the mind and spirit harmonize with external factors, it creates a potential energy between where you currently exist and where you are harmonizing to. New node of manifestation. The figure above is a simple visual demonstration of your body of your physical essence existing off-centered from its golden point. The shifted body represents the change in physical location. The outside thought would be the change in mind. The shifted spirit represents the change in vibrational light state harmony. The stress would be that driving force. The strain would be the resultant distortions or microscopic changes to the solid structures as a whole. Strain would be the malformity or fuzziness created due to physically not existing in your golden spot. The total change would be the location labeled you, which is the combination of mind, body, and spirit. It is the new node of manifestation based off the pebble that has been tossed into the pond. It is a temporary and distorted existence. The path to and from the golden spot. On the journey back to zero of your golden spot, you will notice that you may pace, or rather spiral inward about the major shifted axis. The pacing inward will typically pass the 0 point, then accelerate back towards it again. Mapping the trajectory resembles the orbital motion, or rather a spiral represented by the Fibonacci sequence. To quickly relate the spiraling trajectory to energy, you could say that your driving force for motion or oneness would be directly related to the difference in your current part of the spiral relative to the center. Let's call this value manifestation potential, or gravity of all three, mind, body, and spirit. It is as if all creation strive for that divine ratio, and that we too experience it in mind, body, and spirit, when moving toward and away from our golden spot. When moving toward the golden spot, the energy drive becomes minute. When moving away is when you have the ability to create great energies, however they are not sustainable. A thought from your center. Now imagine you are as close to zeros as your golden spot as possible, and you have a thought. Your thought then ripples outwards, overlapping with the naturally occurring universe. You are in perfect harmony. Then a second person has a thought. The two thoughts collide. More than one body at play. As the thoughts collide, they add and subtract, creating distortions in the mind or conscious field. If the waves are of similar nature, they may harmonize, creating standing waves, which result in a more complex shape or thought. Perhaps a successful brainstorming session would be a good example of that. At the same sense, if the thoughts are a half step or polar orientation, then they may be nullifying to one another, and nothing may transpire. The saying, "Let me bounce some thoughts off you," is quite literal in this sense. Although a more accurate saying may be, "Let me overlap some waves with you and see what nodes comes up." Timed dampeners. It is possible to dampen the amount of pacing a mind, body, or spirit undergoes by interfering with the process. One perfectly timed wave will send you straight back to your golden spot. Timed amplifiers. The reverse is also possible. Two waves in perfect harmony will amplify the entire mind, body, or spirit connection. This resultant wave is the addition of energies. This example shows two bodies that excite one another overlapping to create a zone of harmony. Emitters and receivers. All thoughts overlap in the liquid light state universe, which creates a sort of superconscious. It is easy to see the mesh of projections created by all the minds in existence. They all overlap and influence the natural light state. A being which has quieted the inputs of its own body and quieted the chatter of its mind is in the proper state to receive a thought-form vibration projected by others. Consider your consciousness to be like a guitar. Each string or note is an associated thought. You have two guitars that are tuned the same. One is sitting in the corner of the room, the other is being played by someone. Every time the playing guitar plays a string, it causes a ringing in the exact strings in the guitar in the corner. This is because the acoustic wave generated by the playing guitar matches the vibrational frequency of the one resting in the corner. However, instead of sitting quietly in the corner, if someone were to be playing the different song on the guitar, it would not resonate as well as the previous example. This is because it is sending out waves which interfere with the vibrations of the first guitar. Minds have the ability to communicate directly through conscious field by the use of harmonic resonances. A loud mind emits and a quiet mind receives. Manifestation potential and gravity. When we think about the motions of physical objects in the universe, one extremely important factor is gravity. We are rather familiar with the equations for material gravity. The force and translated accelerations are related to the gravitational constant times the mass divided by the distance squared. However, what factors drive the motions of objects with mind, spirit, free will, and choice? Using the mind, body, and spirit diagram, we can see that manifestation potentials, or mental and spiritual gravities, emerge. The displacement about the major shifted axis relative to the golden spot and location of the current shifted body gives us clues on methods to calculate force. Potential energy typically is related to distance from rest, the amount of mass, and a form of constant. The positive and negative directions are somewhat arbitrary. Let us speculate on a spring system, kr, for thought, and a radiated system, km divided by r squared, for spirit. These are two important major differences between the two. In a spring system, the general force becomes greater as the distance increases. In a radiated system, the general force becomes smaller as the distance increases. You could say the driving force is somewhat disharmony within the current light state, and that bodies in general want to move towards more of a harmonious synchronicity. In the diagram, you can see how your conscious and subconscious field emulate outwards. As they do, they overlap with the natural state of the universe, as well as other minds. You could say animals or beings take the path of least resistance, and so it is almost like a walking trail in the woods. The stress fields create barriers, and a path of least resistance is formed. That becomes the direction of force. In the physical world, there's a scale of matter. A gram has a certain weight, and a kilogram is 1,000 times that. The force of gravity is directly related to the amount of body. Calculating conscious gravity. Let us say the same for conscious field. Each thought contains a certain amount of mass to it. In a social sense, you could call it the importance. One way it may be possible to equate is to consider the ratio of thoughts. For example, how many times does a certain thought come up in a conscious mind over a certain amount of time? How does that compare to all other thoughts? The diagram above depicts a mind in harmony. It has no reason to do anything. It is sitting. Then a thought arises and the mind distorts. The new shape of the individual consciousness adds and subtracts to the superconscious of all beings in existence. It adds to the overall light state of the universe and creates distortions in the minds around it. These distortions can be called mental strains. It is the resultant difference of a state of no mind versus one in thought. There are many minds in the universe, as well as naturally occurring nodes. Let us look at theoretical examples of a conscious field which contains assumptions and expectations. The thoughts that make the mind take shape literally alter the conscious field. In this example, the conscious field lines act as walls or barriers that require additional energy to spatially maintain a body within. The first drawing shows 3 people in harmony. All the people are at rest. Then one of them has an assumption or sends out a relating thought that has much mental mass or importance. A new conscious field now takes shape. This new conscious field thrives for harmony within the universe and natural light state. The result is a force towards this new harmony and away from conscious interference. It is typically in a direction away from the golden spot and shifted body, which creates a spiraling-like pacing or spiraling inward relative to the golden spot. Equating conscious force. Like all springs, there is a thought coefficient and a distance associated with the force and potential energy of the new conscious vibration. The thought coefficient ranges between 0 and 1. 1 would be of maximum importance and 0 would be of little importance. This varies depending on the individual experiencing the thought. It is up to them to decide how the area, or how important an idea is on a range of 0 to 1. The distance x would be more related to a vibrational harmony within the universe versus a physical distance. How close are you to being in harmony with your new thought? From the diagram above, you can see 3 positions. You have x gold, x1, and x2. X gold is your mind at the golden spot. X1 is the location of your shifted body prior to the new thought. X2 is the location of your shifted body after you have fully fulfilled the duty associated. The values obtained by these equations may or may not make sense at first. However, after cataloging many thoughts and actions, we may find a common factor that relates them to the equations of our physical universe. Call it a consciousness to manifested force and energy ratio. After all, what did a Newton first mean when it was invented? How did it relate to reality? It took time to understand the values obtained from the equations. Similarly, it will take time to fully understand what a Newton of thought is. However, it is not a Newton. It is a Novitzky. No, I'm just kidding. It is a conscious force. The N will remain. Amplitude and frequency of thought forms. There are many types of thought forms, and for reasons here, we will break it down to wants, don't wants, assumptions, and expectations. The in the moment, short pacing, for example, getting a glass of water, a kind of I'll just do this real quick kind of thought would have a higher frequency when compared to a subconscious thought form relating to assumptions and expectations about the general nature of reality. This is easiest to see by looking at the theory or concept of space preparation. As the now manifests from the light state, there is a crunching effect of the electromagnetic wave. It shows that the future of the light state exists with an extremely long waveform. The now exists within the state of matter. The light state just before the now is composed of very short waves but not yet manifest. The easy user interface of the mind, body, and spirit is the shifter or reorganizer of nodes. The once of the now work with the waves that are closer to being manifest. These would be of a very high frequency and almost that of matter. The assumptions and expectations of a lifetime work in the longest of wavelengths. They start reorganizing the light state from the greatest reaches of our consciousness. Size of consciousness. It is said that your mind's light encompasses the entire universe when considering all relativistic frames of motion. However, how much does it encompass in the now? What is the longest wave we can sense, and how does this translate into seeing or rather modifying the future with thought form? Humans on average take a snapshot of existence 60 times a second with electromagnetism. That becomes once every 60 seconds, or 60 times a second. The speed of light is 3 times 10 to the 8 meters per second. This means that light from your physical body travels 5 times 10 to the 6 meters per conscious snapshot. Let's call that the radius of the conscious now. The diameter would be twice of that. This implies that the longest standing wave that can exist within your conscious field is 1 times 10 to the 7 meters. Of our natural senses, the fastest form of communication or perception is electromagnetism. It is our source of information exchange in our day-to-day life that seems instantaneous to us. It determines our perception of time and what is waking reality. The smallest wavelength we can see is about 350 nanometers. Let us now compare the relative crunching of our longest wave we have the ability to influence and that of the shortest wave we can detect. Let us compare the relativistic velocity and therefore time dilation associated with the two. Are there any profound implications that arise from this conscious ratio? The ratio of wavelength is 1 times 10 to the 7 divided by 350 times 10 to the 9, which is 3.5 times 10 to the 14. The crunching of the now is done naturally by the universe. The preparation of the future is done by the conscious mind. This now becomes our multiplying factor or distortion ratio. Conscious perception has been stretched. The overlapping of both universal crunching and conscious preparation adds and subtracts from the light state. The now manifested result is a relationship between the two. So how far can our conscious mind prepare into the universe? General insight. Calculating spiritual gravity. Let's introduce the concept of spirit fields and how they may relate to multiple realities, or rather potentialities. Spirit fields exist naturally as the universe passes through a medium, potentially orbiting a solid crystal of time. The timeline experienced is directly related to the vibrational harmony of the being. Harmony may be the deciding factor as to which direction the being will go. It is almost like an electron orbiting an atom. The electron may jump up a shell, down a shell, or stay the same. However, it still orbits the same direction around the same atomic center through the same medium without interference. In our multiple reality or potentiality system, you see that all options overlap each other but do not physically interfere. They all travel in the same direction, which is forward through time, and through the same medium, which is the crystal of time. Our standing energy state may be the key factor as to which shell we are following along our orbit. The spirit may act more like a light bulb rather than a spring, and so for calculating the force associated with spirit gravity, it is more reasonable to use Km divided by r squared. Your coefficient of spirit, K, would be related to the percentage of body and mind in harmony with the local light state in question. A negative K value would imply repulsion, and a positive K value would imply attraction. Considering the entire body as a collection of vibrations, it is easy to see why not all parts will vibrate in unison. For example, imagine being perfectly in harmony and you are at a K of 1. Then anxiety occurs before an event. This will send the vibrational state of your body out of sync. Your K value as a percentage has dropped from 100% to 95%. This is a generic example to help you visualize the light state harmony of your body has with the light state of the universe. What actions have altered? Remember, there is no mind associated with this. It is almost 100% related to instinctual motions. Do you pace for a little bit, react harshly unprovoked? Either way, the change in vibrational harmony associated with the body creates a force for motion. This force may be calculated as such, F equals Km over r squared. For spirit, using the physical mass of the object may properly quantify the force. The distance r would be related to the manifested distance of the body in question and the most appropriate pre-existing light state of harmony. In the figure below, you can see a state of spirit, or light state harmony of the being, and also the liquid light state potentials based on mind preparation and body crunching before the event. Then a new state after. The new spirit state, or rather disharmony with the location of current manifestation within the light state, creates a force towards a harmonious manifestation. After the event takes place, the body has a new vibration. The new ideal spot for manifestation creates a pole. In a sort of fashion, each one of these circles represents a potential timeline of manifestation. The deciding factor on what physical probability manifests is directly related to your spirit vibration and that of the surrounding light state. There may be many more than just 3 lines of orbit as depicted in the crystal of time. Drawing. Just like with the conscious force, there may be a common factor which can then be used to relate this to a traditional Newton. Over time, experimental data will be collected, and this new N may become the common unit of spirit force, or light state harmony gravity. Mind, body, and spirit technologies. Through the use of mind, body, and spirit connections, we are able to theorize and develop consciously controlled devices. Let us now speculate on how this may be possible. The spirit fields and conscious preparations of the future light state may be the key. By creating a near instability in the physical manifestations, the potential energies of mind and spirit may create the physical changes in structures alone. These on-off switches will guide technology. It is all chance in a way, which light state will manifest, but chance can be diminished when you increase the total number of correct spirit fields and conscious preparations, in accordance with properly placed amplifiers. It is also important to diminish outside sources of vibration which may cause interference. In general, an amplifier increases the energy of the wave by overlapping the wave with itself. With small amounts of input and properly balanced waves, great energy can be achieved. It does not change the frequency, it merely increases the effective power behind the wave. Theoretically, you could use solid structures of dense materials and electromagnets to reflect and refract your consciousness and spirit fields onto itself. The overlapping of your own fields would amplify, and your conscious preparations would become the most likely spirit field or direct line of path. Remember, from the spirit fields we see that almost an infinite number of potentialities of light state exist that we may be drawn to. The one that pulls, or the one that is most likely to manifest, is the one with the greatest potential energy, which relates directly to the physical distance and the percentage of your body at which you harmonize to that field. Amplification of the consciousness will most likely need to be done by use of electromagnetic coils with many numbers of turns that are in the shape of cones. The cone or always changing diameter will allow for signals of varying wavelengths to be perceived. This would take the shape of a sphere around the conscious entity. At the same time, the coiled cones would need to be connected directly to a type of electronic amplification circuit where sufficient electrical energy could then be routed to a secondary set of cones. This secondary set of cones would be the emitting station. It would exactly match the waves emitted by the user. You would have an effective amplification of an individual's conscious field, which relates directly to an amplification of their conscious preparations. Now to create the correct spirit field, and you are golden. Remember, the conscious preparations are mindful and thoughtful, but they are not the same as the body's vibrational state. A general harmonistic vibrational state is most easily achieved through the use of acoustic waves. They create a back and forth motion in all matter, in all matter they touch, which creates a somewhat harmonious unity to the particles. All matter has spirit, and it is harmonious with the universe. Create discord through tone, and you will change the spirit of the matter. It will then harmonize into a new location in the universe. An exercise in harmony. A body not in its golden spot, and mind, body, and spirit will degrade. Consider the universe to be a river in this example. A node that has been shifted could be like an ant swimming on the surface. The want, don't want, assumption, or expectation you hold true is where you want to be, swimming against the current of a flowing river. The want or need to fulfill an underlying conscious projection, assumption, or expectation that have been instilled throughout life create all the pacing about our golden spot. It is not natural by any means to spend 8 hours a day working for paper, meaning money, so you can go buy food. It is not natural by any means to strive to become a named title created by mankind. Within today's society, there are many infinite, underlying customary teachings that make it virtually impossible to simply exist within a golden spot as such. To live by your heart and intuitive notion alone would be insane in modern society. Values are determined by monetary wealth, marketed looks, and nonsensical ideologies. This translates directly into a lifelong journey of anxious pacing and non-fulfillment. The answer to harmony and a life of fulfillment may be found in the form of the magic square. Sit quiet and explore the wants, don't wants, expectations, and assumptions that shape the pacing motions of your reality. Have they been created by another being? Are they natural to the true you? Where is your golden spot? Where are you most confident and in love with yourself? As shown by the infinite creative ability of the magic square, harmonize with the universe and your dreams may become reality. A slip in time. From our perspective in the light state, we may see a new picture. There was once a moment when the earth was flat. The sun went around the earth, and that's what was. Then an awakening of sorts. We saw the moons of Jupiter and realized we may be the ones circling the sun. Our perception was backwards. We looked at the stars with our own eyes, and we thought we saw all. Then a solar transit. Other solar systems became reality. The Hubble telescope then led to foundations as millions upon millions of galaxies emerged into existence. We saw a smooth cosmic background. We saw evidence of a Big Bang. We are one grain of sand, one galaxy in the vast ocean of space. Now we see evidence of conscious preparations as space constantly crunches fluid waves into solid existence. What could that mean? In a fashion of sorts, are we not back on Earth again, saying that the sun travels around us? Is this still not just another perspective at which there is a bigger picture? Does the Earth not orbit the sun? We see space preparing in our direction. However, it is all in motion. The Earth around the sun around the galaxy around the Big Bang, and the Big Bang around what? Is the Big Bang not traveling and accelerating through a median? Is there not another underlying motion that would cause the appearance of light crunching? There is another way to have the effect of conscious and space preparations, and that would be if we are all in a constant state of light speed acceleration through the crystal of time. From the author. Mankind has recently just begun to scratch the surface of the physical universe, the human consciousness, and the human spirit. This is an attempt to quantify values and put practical use to them. Light state technology has the ability to take mankind to the stars and beyond. Conscious control devices will be the future of technology. We may one day steer our vehicles, explore the web, and perform our tasks for the day all through thought. Spirit-fueled technology will have much application in the health industry, body manifestation, and even time travel applications. We do have a long way to go before we truly understand our place in existence and all that there is. Matter is just the surface of the ocean.